to our meeting, open meeting here tonight for proposed official plan and bylaw amendments. Start by welcoming the residents here, planning board members, councillors, municipal staff, myself, Paul Poole. I'm chair of planning for Miltonvale Park. First thing I'd like to ask, if you got a cell phone in your pocket, go ahead and shut it off. And if those of you that aren't familiar with the hall, the washrooms are the back door, the door on the back of the first, and the men's is closest to the door.
I'll set my phone on. Just put down.
So. Test. That's better, Joy. Okay, as I mentioned myself, I'm Paul Poole, chair of planning. To my left is Samantha Murphy. She's with S.J. Murphy Planning and Consulting. She's our planner for Miltonvale Park. To my right, I have Sherry McDonald, our CAO, and in the front row here to my left is Mirko Terrassa, and he's our development officer. And our mayor, Hal Parker, may be in attendance sometime after 8. The public meeting we're having tonight basically is development bylaw amendments, which are housekeeping amendments, and official plan amendments, which are housekeeping amendments, and future land use map amendments. Samantha is going to look after the presentation she has prepared here. And the way the meeting's going to go, she's going to be uninterrupted until the presentation's done. And then after the presentation, we will have a question period where we will take comments and questions on the presentation that's been put forward. Samantha?
Push it down.
Sorry.
It's okay. Story of my life. So as mentioned, we have a number of different topics as part of the proposed amendments, and I'll go through the official plan amendments first, and then we'll switch to the bylaw. Anytime you do an official plan or bylaw, you'll have changes over time that are required, either through changes to provincial rules or changing circumstances, or just something that didn't quite work the way you thought it would in a plan and bylaw. So a number of the amendments that are included in the table that I believe everyone would have a copy of are of that nature. Either something that wasn't quite working the way it was intended with the official plan when we did the review, or there have been changes to provincial rules since it was adopted. So two of the amendments deal with the commercial policies and the industrial policies, and making sure that they are consistent with each other and that they provide the flexibility that council might need when looking at applications. So you can see with it, and you'll have the table in your hand, it's the same as what's on the screen, but there's what's there currently and then what's being proposed. If you have the table, it's hard to read that, but it's literally a screenshot. So if you have it in front of you, you can see the before and after of those changes. Typo in the bylaw with or the official plan with the industrial zone policies, and just a mistake, a new addition. When we were doing the plan review in 2021, one of the pieces we did on the commercial side was to ensure that there were some policies about transition over time and expansion. We didn't match the same on the industrial side, and as discussions over the last few years, this became apparent. So that's the reason for the new policy in this area. Some of the broader housekeeping amendments, the approach to interpreting the regulations regarding excavation pits has changed a little bit with the province, and rather than trying to sort of have a negotiated approach between the province and the municipality, it was simpler to remove any references to excavation pits in the municipality's bylaw, and that would leave it entirely to the province to regulate. So the policies regarding the excavation pits will be removed, the excavation pit regulations will apply, and all of the standards there for operations, permits and licensing will be in effect. Other changes, the appeal provisions were amended in the Planning Act in November by the province, and so we needed to change the references in the plan and the bylaw to reflect those changes to the act. And you'll see in the bylaw the same thing about some of the procedures about approving plans and bylaws. Haven't necessarily changed, but we want the wording to be flexible in case they do change in the future. And then the other piece is the map amendment, which is associated with the change that was brought to you last May in the bylaw. Because the future land use map and the zoning map are essentially the same, as I think the only difference is the bird area. Anytime you change the zoning map, you also have to change the official plan map. And so we're bringing the same, the official plan portion of that application forward today. So when council gives consideration to these amendments, they'd be looking at it all as one. In terms of the development bylaw, some of the changes were very typographical, numbering that didn't quite line up. Some of the terms needed to be defined, so needed to have a capital letter. Again, as we noted, removing excavation pits, so that gets removed from the list of items that require a permit. Addition of salvage yards is prohibited. So when we did the work in 2021, the discussion was that we would define salvage yards and not include them as a permitted use, so that it would be very clear that they weren't permitted. However, just to be fully clear, so that there's no doubt of interpretation if someone comes forward with an application for a salvage yard, we are adding it to the list of prohibited uses, so that it's 100% clear that it's not permitted anywhere in the town, in the municipality. Some of the other changes, so with the swimming pools, there's slightly better wording that's being used these days to note that the building can be part of the enclosure when you have a fence, so you don't have to have a fence that's separate from the house if the swimming pool is adjacent. Better wording about latches and small items like that just help with the interpretation and the administration over time. Some of the yard and setback tables didn't quite line up. Likewise, when we talked about the accessory structures, we went to look at the numbering, which didn't quite line up, and realized that it would be much more straightforward to list the rules as a table. So that there's no changes to the standards for accessory structures, it's just being presented in a slightly more accessible way, and then the numbering is being fixed. With wind energy, the province adopted new regulations last year that remove authority from municipalities for all wind farms over 1 megawatt. And so again, it's a minor change, but it's just simply acknowledging that the municipality doesn't have any jurisdiction past that size of array, and it's unlikely that we'll see it here anyway, so but it's just to make sure that there's no conflict between provincial and municipal rules. And like as in with the official plan, the appeal provisions have the wording just has to be consistent, and the major change with that was that it's no longer any person dissatisfied with the decision who can appeal at the way the province rewrote the Planning Act. It's an aggrieved person. So that includes the minister, the council, another municipality. It includes a person who in good faith believes that their enjoyment of their property will be affected, incorporated organizations, so whether that's a nature trust or something like that with a specific purpose, or an organization made up of the people who would have the right to appeal, so it's not always just an individual. So any wording that was so broad to say any person who's dissatisfied is no longer accurate, so we wanted to make sure that no confusion was caused by that inconsistency between the two. And the only other change would then be to update the special planning area regulations at the back. They're there for reference only, so we're just updating because the province has made some changes and updating the fee schedule to reflect those changes as well. So as you'll see, the excavation pits will be deleted anywhere it shows up. Amendments, the process to the amendments is being clarified. Again, no change except to reflect what's changed at the provincial level. With the accessory apartments, it was about the setbacks not being clear, so not quite being in the right place. This is the area that's being put into a table, just to make it more easy to understand. So again, no change in the rules, just making it a little bit easier to read. This is the table, it will be at the back, I think, of the handout. This is where salvage yards is added to the list of prohibited uses. And solar arrays, just being very clear that the wording of the bylaw matches the intent that was put in place at the time. So again, just a number missing in one of the tables. They're really minor for the most part, but you can see them, and if there's any questions, I can go through them. And one piece that was left over between the last bylaw and this bylaw was a reference to the size of a parcel in the agricultural zone. So again, removing wording that was meant to be removed at the time. So that's a really high overview. A lot of the changes are so minor that I don't even know if there'll be questions on it, but I am here to answer any questions and get back, Paul, I guess, unless there's any questions specifically for me.
Okay, so as far as questions and comment portion of the meeting, if you have a comment or you have a question for us, I'm going to ask you to stand up, identify yourself, and then we're going to give you 3 minutes to present your comment or question, and then we're going to move on to the next person. We've got nearly 30 people here in the room, so yeah. And, if 20 minutes doesn't wrap it up, then 25 will for sure. So we'll start with
Rita Jackson. Could you please put up slide number 15? I couldn't read it quite quickly enough for about the swimming pools. Okay, thank you.
So basically, if your house could make one portion of the fence and then 3 more sides around the swimming pool, so you don't have to build a fence next to your house to encompass the whole pool. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Deja Gallagher. I just have a question. It says salvage yards, but there's no definition around salvage yards. Do you have a definition for that? Just grab my Bible.
Yeah, so it's number 108 on page 73 of the bylaw. The definition was already in there, so we didn't include it in the table. It's an area of a parcel used for storage, handling, or processing of and sale of scrap material without limiting the generality of the foregoing. Definition type language may include waste paper, rags, bones, used bicycles, vehicles, tires, metal, or other scrap material or salvage, but shall not include a hazardous waste material storage or disposal site or recycling depot.
Next.
I have another one.
3 minutes.
I'm still Deja Gallagher. So I noticed that enforcement rules have changed as well. That was under the appeal process. What happens with, I don't know which one it was, but I'm just curious to know, like, so these came into effect, the new provisions for enforcement came into effect in 2023, but what happens with any types of agreements that were actually enforced or that were agreed to before then? So 2008, 1999, what happens to those development agreements as it relates to the offenses and penalties?
So the only change to offenses and penalties is capitalizing the word bylaw. There's no other changes there. The changes were made in 2021. If it's capitalized, it means it's a defined term.
Yeah.
It was a missing capital letter.
Next. Dave.
David Ball. I live Miltonvale. I guess I was kind of hoping to see, well, I'm gonna say a map of Miltonvale and a concept plan of where where we would like to have the zoning being what. Everybody's got an opinion, but if there's not some leadership in terms of saying, this may be the best area to do this, we already got something going, there on the York River Road edge, you know, and people have been buying property here with an expectation of using it to build beef barns or to put up an ice cream shop, or what have you. I'm not really seeing that kind of leadership in maybe guiding us a little bit into how you can. I talked to somebody today who said they're not putting their property in the market right now because it's impossible to get any kind of zoning change from the Miltonvale Council. We would like to see our property be used for something that it can't be used for now. And to me, that was, maybe it was a good thing, maybe not, but it could very well have stifled an opportunity to have brought in, and I know what, have brought in something into the community that people it wouldn't have been offensive to neighbors and it would have enhanced it. But because they were scared that the process would drag on here, that they're considering looking at other areas. And I would have liked to have seen a little bit more leadership in that area. So I'm just saying that's not what I got at about, because I was up here a year ago and I was still talking about my neighbor Andrew. And I have a few little comments I do have to make about this situation. I don't know if this is the meeting to do it or if it's after 8 o'clock. I'm not sure how this is broke down. Because we are talking about a changing something to a light industrial zoning. And is that part of this particular part of the meeting?
The discussions on that were in May of last year, and then,
Well, in May of last year, it was not a fait accompli. And my understanding was that the reason I got notice of this meeting was because I was within X number of feet or meters of the proposed change. And I'm sure that last meeting in May, there was no satisfaction in this room as to a resolution.
no, that was an information meeting, is the one tonight where we presented at a public meeting his application,
Okay.
where he came to us wanting to make some changes.
And now you have a new request for basically the same application. I don't see too many major changes in a year later. So when is the time that we have sort of the last kick of the can on this?
So planning board looked at what was presented at the meeting. We went back to the applicant. There was responses from them. We had discussions with our planner. Planning board advised council that it would be in their best interest to proceed with the rezoning. And we're here tonight to present the changes to the official plan and the map. And in the next 2 council meetings, if there's 2 successful readings of those amendments, then they will go into place.
Can I just ask a question with that, David?
And the province has to approve it after the meeting.
But you're presenting some new information tonight related to the bylaws. So you've actually presented some new information, so we should be able to give our presentation with the fact that you presented new information, we should be allowed to also present information reciprocally. Like, it's not right that.
I'm not sure what are you referring to as new information?
Well, you just outlined all the changes to the bylaws, all the minor details that are in the bylaws. This is not, like, are we talking, do we have an opportunity to speak particularly to the rezoning of these 2 parcels?
That's not what this meeting is for.
Well, that's not very well articulated. I think we should all have an opportunity. So we actually want to, there's a number of us who want to present our information because you're presenting information, so, and to say we have 3 minutes, like, I think the meeting goes till 9, I would suggest we use the entire time that's been allotted for this meeting to fill that in.
We're gonna take, we're taking written comments until April the 2nd.
But why? There's people who cannot make it tonight that actually want to watch the video
And
presentation.
they can watch that and send us something in writing by April 2nd.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Okay, well, we can, okay, we know. Okay, well, we can share, if anybody has any, wants some other information, I'll gladly share a packet with you. I don't understand why you're not opening it up for further discussion. That doesn't seem like good process. It doesn't seem like good community dialogue, especially when this is a substantial change. Like, what are you afraid of? Like, is it, like, we're just sharing information so you can make a really good decision as council. It's your duty as an elected official to take all the considerations into account and all the information. So I can't understand why you're not open to receiving the information from the residents in the room.
We did that in May, and we reviewed that, and we
Yeah,
made a
and-
decision
but
that
now
we're
it's
going
about-
to rezone that parcel to light industrial.
Respectfully though, the developer had an opportunity to present information to the council. We should have an opportunity to respond to his presentation because there's contradictions in that information. And I think residents have a right to hear that. So
And I meet them all, I'm also on David's right. And in the last meeting in May, I was of the impression that there was going to be a follow-up meeting that would address any further concerns if there was going to be some changes to the rezoning. I thought, and I certainly came tonight thinking that we were going to have an opportunity to also, we saw the new proposal.
That's not new, that's the parcels.
There was
Yeah.
some
Changes to
new
the
changes, new
bylaws.
changes to the bylaws, and there seems to have been some other changes, but we should have the opportunity to speak as well, because we have new information as well. So I was not under the impression that this was just to come and say this is a done deal.
And there are people in this room who do not have access to technology, who may be here and just want to actually hear the concerns. You know, respectfully again, it has to be accessible to all residents. So,
It will be, it's being recorded,
But-
it'll be on our
What's being
Facebook page
recorded?
tomorrow. All the minutes and anything that's taking
I don't
place
do Facebook.
is,
you don't put it on your website. It's not available to residents who are not on Facebook. It's only one channel for communication. And we have an hour, so I don't understand what the rest of the hour is allocated to. What else is being filled